Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to CFL Central, CFL content for the fans, by the fans. And we have our review of week one of the preseason, which was just one game. Technically it was week one, because technically they're considering this weekend week two. So it is what it is. So it's just Bombers and Riders, and the Riders would win by a score of 25-12. My prediction was right. I predicted the Saskatchewan would win this game. You predicted for my beloved Bombers. I am very appreciative of that. But I'm not exactly surprised by the result. The Riders did play a decent amount more veterans than Winnipeg did. Winnipeg started the game with a few, but then they really just pulled almost everyone out, except Castillo. And even then, when there were times where they could have kicked, they decided to kind of keep going to try to get more reps out of some of the other guys. So how did you feel? Because I think you've watched this game, have you?
Yes, I did.
So how do you feel about this?
I mean,
besides the announcers screwing up seemingly every name on the roster.
Depending on where you look, I've been seeing a lot of backlash on Strevler.
Really?
Within the last 24 hours.
Why?
People on social media saying, oh, this is what you get with the one-hit wonder when you can barely throw. All he can do is run.
But that's nothing new. But that's his role. He
did throw 7 for 8 for 65 yards, but I guess they were expecting more of that.
I guess they're expecting 8. That. So 2 things. Number one, Strevler has never been a throwing kind of a quarterback. He's always been a run first kind of quarterback. And I think he succeeded very well in that in the preseason game. And number 2, again, he went 7 for 8. If we compared this pre-NFL Strevler, throwing game is much worse than this. The NFL, they really were able to refine his throwing game, not to the point where it was anywhere near like Zach Hilaires, but much better than what it was to be a real suitable number 2 backup. And overall, if you're a Bomber fan and you're watching this game, you're just it's one of those things where you're like, man, it feels good to see him in the blue and gold. It really is. It feels. It's been too long without it. So overall, I was just glad to see him in there. The Bombers would have a few guys starting. Their starting D line was what looks like would be their actual starting D line, but that literally lasted about 5 minutes with Haba in Jeff Code's spot, as Jeff Code is now retired. So Haba is now going to be the permanent replacement defensive end on that D line, along with Cam Lawson and Jake Thomas up the middle, with Willie Jefferson, of course, on the other end as well. So, but then they'd rotate a bunch of guys in there, but it looks like that will be kind of your starting 4. And so there was a few guys this game that I was pretty happy about in terms of getting some good looks. I thought Myron Mitchell had some good looks until he kind of got banged up and went out. Castillo was money the whole game. Can't say the same for Lother. He had missed a convert.
Apparently he suffered an injury too.
Yeah, apparently I heard that he had suffered an injury, so that's probably to blame for some of it as well. To be fair, one of the kicks he missed was over 40 yards, so I can kind of give him a little bit of a pass on that. Barrier, I think it's Barrier, had a bit of a rough game. And I hope that this isn't it's just he's just not good. I hope this is just nerves. You know what I mean? When we're talking about these guys that have never played at this level of professional football or had been exposed to this, it can be intimidating. It absolutely can be. So and with this position like quarterback, where you really got to be on your toes in order to make those plays, and move the ball down the field just kind of on a whim like that. I can understand cracking under the pressure, similar to kind of like a kicker in the sense. So I hope that that's all that was. But in regards to our last, I'm going to give you a second here. I want to finish my thought on the quarterbacks for Winnipeg. In our last quarterback being Terry Wilson, I was very happy with Terry Wilson. I thought he had a great end of this game. Had a good touchdown pass, had some good completions. I thought he looked really solid. And so I hope in the next preseason game, I hope we see, rather than 2 quarters of Barrier and 1 of Terry Wilson, I hope we see at least 2 quarters of Terry Wilson. Your turn.
I'm sure you'll see some of Zach Claros in the next game.
Oh yeah, we'll probably see a quarter or maybe a drive of Zach Claros. Although to be honestly, I don't even think we need it.
The receiver Tyler Adams, is he a rookie?
I believe so. The
one that led your team in yards?
Think so. Although I will say my big question for the Bombers with this game was how, and I might want you to kind of dive into a bit more of the Riders just because I'm more focused on the Bombers with this. But one big thing for the Bombers was that this game was going to kind of show was, who might be going into that spot on offensive tackle. I thought there was a good game by Lamel Coleman. Lamel Coleman spent some time in the NFL with the Dolphins, spent some time with the Panthers, spent some time in the UFL with the Roughnecks and the Stallions. So I think there's opportunity for a guy like that to have a fit. However, I was talking to Bombers Paradise on Instagram. A lot of Bomber fans, I'll follow him. He's excellent. And I kind of asked him what his thoughts on this were. And I think he's right in the sense of that Eric Lofton's probably going to get that spot. Very familiar with the system. The Bombers kind of like that homegrown talent. Not even necessarily in terms of Winnipeggers, but guys that have really developed in their system. And I think Eric Lofton is a very good sign of that. Got any Saskatchewan stuff for me?
I mean,
because I saw Pipkin play a bit. I saw Patterson play a little bit later on. Trevor Harris just started the game.
Well, no, because I was going between the depth chart and the stats. I mean, the one person that kind of really stood out for me for Saskatchewan is Aju.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Ajo, not Aju. It's Ajo.
I see.
Geez, his parents were really original when they named their kid.
It's like that thing I saw of Family Feud with Steve Harvey, and the guy's name is Obu, and it's Obu, and his dad's name is Obu.
He went 4 for 5 for receiving for 62 yards and a touchdown.
Oh, there you go.
But what kills me is these rookies will go get a touchdown, celebrate like they've never friggin' scored before, and then it's like, rookie, okay, relax, take a step back, chill.
Although I will say,
I understand, like, celebrate, but not like some of these professionals do.
See, I didn't have a problem with the celebrations, just in the sense of I understand these guys are young. This is exciting. This is their chance. This is them, getting to strap up and play a CFL game. I get that. The problem I did have was there were 2 times where there were coincidental unnecessary roughness penalties after touchdowns and after plays. And so if,
that's just shoving after the play.
I know, but smarten up. Like, those are not penalties you want to be taking. That was one issue I did have with the Bombers in this game. It's too many penalties. No procedure penalties, but it's like about 3 offside penalties, 2 unnecessary roughness penalties. Not ideal. And so
Saskatchewan had 5 sacks for 15 yards.
Yes, they did. Yeah.
You guys had way too many penalties.
Yeah, no, this is exactly what I mean. But the Bombers took
9 penalties for 117 yards.
Yeah, no, they gave up the entire length of the field. I know. I'm aware of this. Trust me.
Are we gonna have that Carter thing this year where it's like, oh, they gotta play more than just half a game or just a quarter? They gotta play the whole 40.
They gotta play the entire hour. Can't play half the game. Gotta play the whole game. No, but it's one of those things where they just got to be disciplined, and so.
But I mean, you're gonna get that with rookies.
Yeah, you're gonna get that with rookies. You're gonna get that with guys trying to make their mark. More seasoned veterans are gonna be, ideally, not always, but mostly better at that. I will say with Jeff Gray was a good part of the O-line. He had been, a good offensive lineman that had served us well Although I will say, now that he's not on the team, we will take less procedure penalties. I'm sorry, he just took tons of them. That's just, like, I'm sorry. But when I heard that a guy lifted his hand up too early, like, I remember we'd be sitting there and I'd be like, Jeff! Like, you know? But it is what it is. I've heard he's a wonderful person. I'm sure it is. And I'm absolutely not trying to rag on him. He's a better football player than I could ever dream to be.
True.
So, is there anything else that you want to kind of cover with this game? I think we kind of went pretty in depth for sure on the Bomber side of things. I feel bad.
Olet did do a few good runs, but there was times where like he went to go run, and then it's just like they just like put up the wall. And then instead of going forward, he went backwards, and then you could see he was. I'll
give credit to where credit's due in the sense of that the portion of the game that Ouellette played in, where he had trouble, was when the Bombers they had some starters in on defense. So I'll give him that. And so at the end of the day, Ouellette he's a great running back. He really is. And so will certain teams have problems going against the Bombers D-line? Yeah, it's a great D-line, but it's one of those things where. If I'm Saskatchewan fans, I'm not worried about Ouellette. He'll find some success come start of the regular season. Probably some against the Bombers, probably a lot more against maybe some other teams. But if I'm Saskatchewan, I'm not worried about AJ Ouellette. I'd be excited about him.
Who do they play next? Because I'm curious.
Saskatchewan?
Okay, so they play Edmonton on Saturday. I'm curious to see because Harris has pretty much got the number one quarterback title down.
Oh, he absolutely does. No question.
It's now comes the question, who has backup, Mason Fine or Shea Patterson? Because Patterson went 3 for 3 for 52 yards and a touchdown.
I'd say Patterson. I think Patterson's more proven. Mason Fine has been a little all over the place. He's been... I know
he's not fine.
He's being fine. He actually has been fine, but only fine. Not good, but fine. And so
fine.
It's kind of like I feel like whenever we say that, we're just shooting a dead horse in the sense of like poor guy's probably heard that all his life. Like seriously, like when you have the last name Fine,
dead horse.
Like no, but like. How many times do you think people have made jokes about like, oh, I'm sure he's just fine. Like, I'm sure he's like broken record. You know what I mean? So
you're going to get a fine in the mail.
That's a dumb joke. But it is what it is. It's funny. We were going to do our preview of the next week of CFL action, but we're going to wait a little bit just so that way, first of all, let this video cook. Secondly, I want us to get some more information on maybe the lineups that we'll see going in to those 4 games this Saturday. And that will be interesting to see. So overall, I think that's pretty much all I got. Is there anything else, you guys? Anything you got?
No.
All right. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe if you have not already. And hope you guys enjoyed this video. Enjoy the next one and enjoy all the ones we did before. Go tune into those. And we'll see you guys next time.